This is Jim Phelan of the Chisholm Trail Museum in Waurika interviewing Mrs. Magdalena Clements at Ryan, Oklahoma. And one of my first questions, Mrs. Clements, is about where your folks were from. Where was your father from?
My parents came to Oklahoma from Cook County, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Their address was Callisburg, Texas. Yeah, they were farmers, and they homesteaded at the opening of the Kiowa Comanche settlement.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the sixth child in a family of 7. And I've done pioneering.
Yeah.
And
Do you know why, or why did you come to Ryan, or why are you here?
I came to Ryan a little over 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slight stroke, and my home had been there at Hastings, and when I came here, then
Let's go ahead.
we just closed the house, and I came home.
Came to Ryan, I see.
And I have been here ever since.
Mm-hmm. And you were in Hastings how long?
Well, see, I went to college from high school and worked as home economist, taught even rural schools,
Mm-hmm.
but taught home economics, was a home demonstration agent in Oklahoma and later in Idaho, and did a lot of work with Farm Security Administration. And after the home economics program was combined with the men's program in farm security, I went back to college at Oklahoma A&M, which was then Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
My first degree was from there in 1926.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I taught home economics in high schools in Oklahoma and in Texas.
Now, how do you, the names of the schools in Oklahoma?
Well, I was at Tishomingo and Buffalo and I can't think of the name of that little town, Wanette.
Wanette.
And when I went out on the high plains, I was out in the area of Perryton.
Mm-hmm.
And always I preferred small schools,
Yeah.
rural girls, rural women, always had an adult program. And one of the most outstanding experiences I had in Texas was to have been that little school, a rural school. There were about 9 teachers, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And it was classed as one of the outstanding schools in the state of Texas.
Well,
as
quite
far
an
as
honor, wasn't it?
it was a great honor and a great privilege. It was, I think, one of the best organized groups of people that I've ever known,
Mm-hmm.
and happy as they could be.
Everyone
We had a wonderful superintendent that had very definite ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and they were good.
Well,
And
wonderful.
it was a pleasure to be there. But there was one bad point. I had this master's degree, and they had to pay me according to my qualifications. And after the farming all went to machinery, cotton was grown and picked that way. they lost their population, and they lost, we had graduated 14 girls the year I was there, and the next year there would only be 4 entering high school.
Well,
So
goodness.
that pushed me out there.
Yeah, that was sort of a sad period, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I had this little home at Hastings, and I went on back there and I did surveys and different things that I could pick up.
Mhm.
But
What you could qualify for probably at the time.
what?
For what you could probably qualify for with your education at the
Yes,
time.
there have been some nice openings since I've been here, but I was not able to apply for them.
Before getting further, I'd like to have you repeat your name. I should have had you do that.
Keep my name, my face to it.
No, just your full name.
My full name is
Uh-huh.
Magdalena Clements. I didn't have a middle name.
No middle name. And do you object to giving your age by any chance? You don't
Well,
have to.
I usually tell them I'm like Jack Benny.
Just gonna stay at 39.
I think this is about age. I think some people kind of, they just kind of brag on being old
Yeah.
rather than what they have done,
What they've
and
accomplished.
what they've accomplished.
You bet.
And then there's a discrimination, especially with women.
Mhm. Oh, yes.
And
Very much.
there isn't. It's after all, it's no one's business.
Mhm.
It's what you do that counts, not
Sure.
how long you've been doing it.
Yeah. When you started or anything, yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
yeah, that's fine.
But I still have that. Well, of course, being brought up in the country like I was, I naturally loved our friends and our neighbors.
Sure. You bet.
And I naturally loved foreign people.
Mhm. Well, I think this foreigners especially.
I like the farming.
Mhm.
And right now I marvel at how well they're doing with their market cut down.
Oh,
Like
it's pitiful.
it's been a bad situation for farmers.
Yeah, boy, they're really taking the brunt of it.
The only thing I think that, of course, when we had the Depression and the black blizzard days, no rain,
Yeah.
people still had a lot of food stored up. A lot of them did. And we don't have that now.
No, it just isn't happening like it did. So,
It'll be more serious than ever unless our market is improved.
well, let me ask, at this point, what do you think the future holds for civilization, possibly?
I say don't lose your courage.
Just stay with your convictions, in other words.
Mhm. I think
Fight for what you believe in.
that's right. I think it's.
Yeah. Now, would you happen to recall or remember where your folks came from originally? Your mother and father, were they from Ireland or England? What their ancestry may have been?
Well, my mother's people were German,
German.
and my father, he always said he's Scotch, Irish, and Dutch, but it's a combination.
Yeah.
And they both had lots of courage. My parents lived together 57 years,
Yeah,
and a good many things happened.
Oh, sure of that. And
They always loved people, and my father was quite a leader of people. He was, I know in those early days when the rural schools, were also places for worship,
yeah.
he just loved to go and be with people. And he's a charming leader.
Well, be among them.
Yes, he
Well,
was.
that's a wonderful trait.
And mother was, that they were, well, I don't know, it was just a good old farm home.
Yeah, just wonderful times, I imagine. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, there were 7 of us. I was the
That's right.
6th one.
Sixth.
And
Were they all successful, possibly?
Well, they're all
endeavor?
dead.
They all-
I'm the only
I see.
survivor. I grew up just in time to be a good babysitter with the next generation. And I was in college with some of
I see.
them.
Well,
And they've all been wonderful.
that is great.
We recently had a death in the family. My niece, Ruth Clements, died and was brought back to Waurika.
Oh, yeah.
And the family that's left were the two sisters and a brother and myself. And I said that was one beautiful thing about it, was getting to know each other better.
I'll bet. That'd be wonderful. I was wondering, do you remember the college in Hastings?
Yes, my brothers and sisters went to that college.
And what was it called at the time, the name of it?
Well, it was, I don't remember its first name unless it was just a congregational college.
Uh-huh.
But then the Baptists took over and it was called Southwest Baptist College. And of course I was too little to know very much about it, but recently I had known a man that had known my brothers and sisters when they were in college.
Well,
And so it was more or less like an advanced high school, I guess you'd say.
I see. Well, that's great.
But they had a good, one of the things they had was a good fine arts program.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they entertained themselves as well as the community.
You bet. Well, that's mighty interesting. I've heard that this college is located today in Shawnee.
Yes. It was first moved to Mangum, but Mangum was a small town too, you know. And then it was moved from there to Shawnee.
I see.
And it's very, very nice college.
It's really
It
come
was
along.
now a university.
Yeah, I believe it is.
University.
So it's a wonderful college.
I love those schools like that. I noticed some of the graduates of the Waurika School were going to religious schools.
Right. It's
Makes-
mighty wonderful if they can.
Well, it helps wherever they're going to live, they're better leaders.
I'm sure of that.
And
You betcha.
you've got to remember that the community is what we make it.
That's right. That is 100% correct. Do you recall, let's see, any bad times in Hastings, possibly cyclones or something that was really a terrible incident that happened?
I remember the time they had the fire on Main Street. My oldest brother was a young doctor. He married a Hastings girl, and they were just getting started. And Hastings had an opera house, and his office was upstairs in the front of that.
Mhm.
And he had his library, and he had worked hard, you know, the things he brought back from college.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah.
And what was left in, what he carried in his daily bag was all that was left.
Good heavens, just everything was burned.
And the town just about burned. It was,
Would you recall the population at that time?
oh, I have no
Yeah.
idea. They said 10,000 at one time, but I doubt if there was that many.
And what do you suppose the population is today?
I don't know.
Just
There's a
200,
lot of
300?
people have moved in there
Yeah.
since I've been down here.
Yeah.
I would not say
Yeah,
what they claim. I think one of the things that they're handicapped, they don't have any police force.
that's right. Yeah, I just hadn't to think of that. They sure need something, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They're nice people, but you just simply have to come. I remember, that's just a few years, about summer before I came down here. The patrol got children on Main Street for speeding with their
Motorcycles or
I guess they were,
cars?
no, it wasn't cars, it was, you know,
Bicycles?
not bicycles, but motorcycles.
Motorcycles.
And he lined them up there on Main Street, and he really got them straightened out.
Got them all at once, huh?
He put them all on the sidewalk there and talked to them, and he told them exactly where they headed. And I was so thankful. They had just been zipping up and down.
Yeah.
And I was so afraid that somebody would get killed
Sure.
before school started, but they didn't. They all escaped.
It could very easily happen. Let's see now, what else we can...
But
what was possibly your favorite president?
hmm?
Who was your favorite president?
Oh, I'd say Kennedy.
Kennedy? Uh-huh. And,
He had the background that the rich have,
mhm.
but he had the sympathy of what the poor
The
had.
common man.
And he was able to work with all of us.
Yeah, that's right. Days in school, elementary school, and just where did you go to elementary school?
Well, I went to country school until I was about 8th grade, and then I went into Hastings.
Uh-huh.
And we'd either walk in or we'd drive in,
Yeah.
our own conveyances, the days before school buses.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had a wonderful superintendent the years I was junior and senior.
Mm-hmm.
He loved kids, he loved people, and he was so sensible about it. We didn't have to have a football game to go to. We had school.
What was his name?
And we were all there.
Yeah.
His name was O.E. Murphy.
Murphy.
And we were short on books. In those days, you know, you didn't have the big library.
That's right.
But we would read to each other. And you could have dropped a pin in those rooms while he was reading to us, or we were reading to him.
Sounds great.
I saw him later one time after I'd taught school, and he said whether you were the most wonderful kids I ever knew.
Well, great. Did he recognize you right away?
Oh, did he recognize us? He just loved us like a bit.
It's like we're his own children.
Mhm.
That is a rare quantity.
And we did have, when they wrote up the Hastings record last year, they didn't even mention that class of 1916.
Well, I'll say.
And that was first year we had permanent records.
Sure, they should have mentioned that.
But we sure had permanent records. He did so many things for us.
Yeah. What were your days in high school like? Did you like all your teachers or did you have football teams?
Oh, no football. No. We bought our own tennis rackets and had a outdoor
Tennis court?
But we did not run around like the kids do now. They go from here to yonder, you know. And no, when school was out, we went home, and we all had work to do.
And chores. What were your chores? You remember especially?
Oh yeah, we were farmers. It wasn't hard to find a chore out there.
You just did them all. So, do you ever churn butter?
Hmm?
Did you ever churn butter?
Oh, did we? We sold butter.
Yeah. You sold it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say.
Oh man.
That's the way he made you change?
Goodness me, yes. And then on good change, we
Had to survive on it.
no, we had a beautiful living. When I think of this, was an experience that I don't always remember. I was a little girl, must have been about 7 years old, because we had lost our home in a fire, and this was the next year. And the oldest brother was in medical school. And the rest of us, they were either over there in the academy or they were out there at that farm school.
Mm-hmm.
And a panic struck. There was no money. And this banker was quite distressed over what it was doing to fellows like Dad who had families.
Yeah.
And so he called him in one day, and Mr. Banker, whatever, Arnold was his name, told him he'd found a little money and he could let him have as much as $50.
Well,
Dad said, yes, I could use it. And they made out the note and so on. He said, how do you want it? And he said, oh, send it to Ollie. He's there in the city and it's hard for him to pick up anything to do. He said, well, what about all those other kids? And he said, well, I see them every day, twice a day. And said, they're just fine. We bought their work shoes or school shoes in the fall, and their Sunday shoes, they haven't outgrown them. So they're all right. But he just couldn't understand why Dad didn't want some money for the family, you know. So when my father got it upset, he found Mama. He came home and he told Mama, about Mr. Arnold, and said, she said, next time you see Mr. Arnold, you two go see Mrs. Arnold and invite them out for supper and let them set the day because I'm always here and they may have something else to do.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't do a thing, turn right around and go back to town.
Invited them.
Invited them
Well.
and made it out and they came. And really, you could imagine my mother. She had this nice country dinner, all printed up.
Boy.
Chicken dinner and dumplings, and nice pie from fruit out of the cellar and that sort of thing. And we had come home and we were always very loyal, especially when our folks had an idea about it. We'd all print up and put on our fresh school clothes and chores were all done.
Boy.
And instead of making kids wait, my folks always fed them with the rest of them. We all sat down at that old long table with that pretty dinner in front of us, and Mr. Arnold said, now, Brother Clements, I want you to say the blessing, but I want to say this first. I want to thank you for having us out to be with this lovely family and see this beautiful meal. And there wasn't one thing on that table that had been bought. Biscuits were all fresh out of
fresh butter and fresh everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And they were so thrilled to see a family living like that when some of them were.
Oh, you bet.
But now, I cringe for the situation now when there's not a lot of stuff in the cellar.
Yeah, you'll never see that again, probably. But everything on the table is raised or up there in the area.
Well, he toughed it out. That boy went right on and he didn't come home. And he was always a good manager. One of the things he did was a receptionist for a couple of doctors, and they arranged so that he could stay there overnight. So he didn't have, he had a nice warm place to live, even though it might have been a little bit inconvenient. And he could use their library. That was the main thing.
Oh, he was a reader.
Oh, yes, all those big old books that cost an awful lot of things to buy those books. Some of them would be $50 a month now. But he used that library.
What do you suppose would be your happiest time, moment, or whatever, as you look back on?
Oh, I think when we'd all get together on these special things.
Special times.
And that was usually Thanksgiving or Christmas, both of them if they could get back.
Yeah.
And one of the things we always did that has meant so much to me away from home, they never left, but what Dad would have us into the front room to sing. We had an organ that was saved through the fire.
Boy.
And we just sing. We wasn't any good fancy musicians. We usually had a good one at the organ. But other than that,
everybody enjoyed the
everybody
singing.
We sang.
Just sang, your voices gave out.
And then later, when I was out there in Idaho one time, my car was the last car in a snowstorm. And I got to the highway station, and the man was just scared to death. Wondered why in the world I'd gotten out, when he'd closed the roads.
Boy.
And he told me that I could have frozen to death within 20 feet of his station, and he wouldn't know I was there.
Good heavens. Boy,
And I listened to all this, and I said, I knew why I left this home out there. There wasn't anything to do but leave. The meeting, these men had, a couple of them had come to help see if the cars all started.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked the lady where we were meeting to loan me a rag. And I went out and asked those two boys if I could help them get the car started. And mine was the only one that was starting. There was about 4 or 5 of them. And they said to me, well, we want to give you credit for being able to stop your car in the right direction. If you turn the car with its nose towards the wind, the snow will go on either side and it won't get in on your spot buttons.
Oh, boy.
And I said, well, it was a farmer who told me that when I first came out here. And I said, it works. He said, you have to be told our girls and see how they park.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got those cars all started, they asked me to lead out. Because they said some of them were in much worse shape and they didn't want to leave anybody.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, that's easy. The bus had just been through and there'd be the ruts. But I couldn't see the ruts. So.
It already filled over?
But I could feel them.
Yeah.
And all those were about 5 or 6 miles into this highway station. And I remembered all those good driving rules. One of them is if your car starts skidding, don't step on the brakes, step on the accelerator. Get the front and the back running the same direction at the same time. And there was one place, of course out there water was king, This canal I was following the last about the last mile and a half, I guess. There was a pile of rocks, and they didn't blast them out because they would run the canal. They just put the road around them. Mm-hmm. And I'd think, oh, if I could just see that little jetty of rocks. Yeah. When I got there wasn't any breeze. You could see those ruts that school bus had made, and you could even see the rocks. Mm-hmm. And nothing in the world but God walking with me.
Oh, I bet. Very fortunate. Lucky. Well.
Yes, sir. And the fact that I had sung all the way in, I said to him, yeah, I know, my parents pray every evening. This is about just before they go to bed, this hour in the day. And I said, and I helped him out. I sang that old Methodist hymn through.
All the way through it. You knew it by heart. Well, that's very interesting.
And by that time, we both tears were falling, and he said, thank God you didn't lose your courage.
Mm-hmm. That was the main thing. Well, let's see, Magdalena,